Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we are just getting our first conversation started. And as we said earlier, we are joined by some teachers today, and we're going to be talking all about what the effect of the proposed 10% salary cut and increment freeze would mean for them. So we have two teachers from Mount Carmel High School to join us this morning. We have Miguel Bonilla and Kelvin Requena. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, and thank you for having us. It's really a joy to be here.
Yeah. Well,
good morning as well.
Yeah. Great, and it's thank you so much for joining us, and it's good to have you as well. Now, let's get a little bit of an introduction first. So why don't you gentlemen first say what it is that you teach and how long have you been teaching?
Okay, I teach at Mount Carmel. I've been teaching for the past 4 years. My original degree is I had a bachelor's degree in biology. So I teach biology at high school. And I just recently completed my diploma in education. That means that I just recently got promoted to the pay scale 16.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Kelvin?
Yes, hello, good morning once again. As my name says, I'm Kelvin Requena. I'm also a teacher at Mount Carmel High School. I'm currently, I think I'm going into my four and a half years of teaching. I have an associate's degree in biology and chemistry, and I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in chemistry. And I mean, this is a very interesting topic that Miguel and I have discussed over several days and weeks, I would say. So that's why we came up with this wonderful idea, I would say.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that. So it seems that you two gentlemen had your own viral video going around this weekend. And that's because you took the time to be able to break down what the ramifications of a possible increment freeze would mean on an individual basis for teachers. So Kelvin, you kind of alluded to it. This was a conversation that was ongoing. What prompted you to go to the next step to do the explainer?
I would say, Miguel, you can go ahead.
Sorry about that. I think that the information has been out there for a while. Mm-hmm. It's not new information, and I saw the information from the Public Service Union website, mm-hmm. and I thought that, hey, why are we foregoing the increment? Why are we? Because it was all about the salary. We mm-hmm. said, oh, the increment is so little, and we didn't get the whole picture. Mm-hmm. And I came that morning to Kelvin and I said, Kelvin, what do you think? We have a need for this, and he agreed. And we discussed in ways in which we can present it effectively, mm-hmm. and we came up with that. And since I am a little bit more vocal, mm-hmm. he said, well, you go on and you speak.
and he volunteered his information.
Yes.
That is a sample information.
No, but let's bring it back to the core issue. So you felt that the conversation was strictly talking about the percentage of salary cut, and not so much looking at what the impact of the increment freeze would be.
I think it's a little bit reversed, because I think everyone was talking about the salary cut, and we were so befuddled with all the storm on the salary cut, and the increment freeze was left to the side, and that is where the hidden danger is. And if there are teachers listening to me, that is where the hidden dangers is. Mm-hmm. So I need to stress that.
All right. So we do have the video, and we're going to ask you to do a kind of a live explanation, so our viewers can also get a better understanding as well. But Kelvin, from your point of view, why was this such a critical point for you? Especially since you are both young teachers who have, a few decades to go in your career.
Well, as you said, Marlene, we do have a few decades to go in our career, and I think that was the turning point that we felt that we actually wanted to make the young people joining the teaching profession in terms of their what's going on, to explain to them, because sometimes Miguel and I have discussed that sometimes the information is there, but we don't actually take the time to read it, to go over the information, and in doing so, we felt that we were actually catering for them, telling them, hey, this is information, this is how it is being presented to you, or this is how it will affect you. And again, we must consider that we are young, and maybe oftentimes we don't have our goals properly set. And in doing so, Miguel and I have sort of like exposed them and telling them, this is how you're being affected, but just think of it. I think that was the main message that Miguel and I had, like, hey, this is information, this is how it's affecting you, think of it. Think of how you would modify it, how you would make amends to maybe not get this huge cut, I would say.
All right, so we're going to pull up that video, and you guys can talk us through it. But as you were doing the breakdown with the sample salaries that you used, were you surprised by seeing the amount of money that would be lost with that 4-year freeze?
Yeah, certainly it was a big surprise when we discovered it. Well, not discovered it, but when we actually understood the deep implications that it has. And so, yeah, I was surprised, and I think Kelvin was equally surprised. Yeah. So, yeah. You said that you
well, if you have it, you can pull it up there, because it may be easier.
Right, right. So one of the things with the numbers that I input in the video might have been the numbers that I had at hand, and then Mr. Leva from Baptist High School, he made a correction. So I have new numbers, if I can share my screen, and they're a little bit worse than I had originally projected. So if I can share my screen, then
yeah, we're gonna get that sorted for you right now. So this is, and that's where, I mean, what was the response when you put this video out and everyone was able to see on a chart just what you're talking about when you say an increment freeze? What were some of the responses that you got?
Well, the responses were mixed, and that is something that I would really like to address. I got messages on my Facebook attacking me, and I got some messages thanking me. Now, I didn't make it with the purpose of creating conflict for people who don't agree, but I was objectively, as science teachers, we have to retain an objective mind of this is the implication. We will lose out. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. We will lose out a lot of money if we go with the increment freeze for 4 years. And I think that the public also needs to know that we're not fighting with them. It's not a fight with them, and we're not even fighting with the government. We're not even fighting with the government. We're just trying to bring awareness that this will have a very bad taste at the end of our lives upon retirement. So I think I have my presentation up.
Yeah, let's see it now.
Okay, so I used the pay scale 69, and that was one of the high end. So on a normal year, when I started teaching, I earned $30,171, and every year that passed, and if you notice, on a normal year, this would have been the case. So it would have increased 1,300.
1 second, we're still trying to get the video up, so we don't have that there right now. Yeah, but go ahead and keep on explaining. Yeah.
So every year that I teach, I would be assessed, because we have assessment twice a year, evaluations twice a year based on performance, and then they would decide whether I am deserving of a salary increment. And make no mistake, the evaluations tend to be very stringent. So it's not like we're getting it automatically. We need to teach, and we need to be observed, clinically observed, and objectively assessed. And then we get an increase. It's not like we're just going to get an increase because we're moving up in years. We get an increment based on merit. And every year, the salary for a pay scale 16 would have an increase of $1,010. So that would be our increment, yearly increment. As we move on, so every year on a normal year, it would grow like that for 20 years, because the pay scale is based on a 20-point line. And if you notice here, okay, I see that my chart is there. So if you're able to see in a normal year, it would increase by the same amount. So this is the amount, and cumulatively, by the end of my lifetime, I would have made earnings of $1,237,747.
So let me just interject there for a second, because this is part of what people, we're looking at the screen. And for people who don't know numbers, this is already confusing, right?
Right.
So when you're looking at the first, it has 4 years of an increment freeze, that right side of the screen. Now, we know that the proposal is only for 3, but you are already completing the first year of an increment freeze, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
We are completing 1 year, and it is being proposed for 3 more years, and that makes it 4. Now, if you're like me and you got frozen on your first year, well, that means that tough luck for you. That's 5 years for you.
Okay. And so what you're seeing is that basically what you would have earned over those years, you don't see it, well, you do see the difference as you move forward in your years of service. That's what's happening as we scroll down. But the biggest difference is looking at what happens in your final total, right?
That is correct. Cumulative loss over a lifetime, a lifetime of service. And originally in the video, I projected that it was about 76,000, when in actuality, it's nearly 100 grand. It's 99,000 and a fraction. So I'm not sure if my graph is showing, if my table is showing.
The table is showing, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so here, this one gives you a better visual representation of what I intended to do. So if you're able to see, so are you able to see my screen?
No, we're still seeing the table. But just go ahead. Just go ahead and explain to us, since we can't get it sorted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, sorry. So just let me share it.
So Kelvin, tell us while Miguel is working on that. Kelvin, tell us a bit about the feedback that you received as well.
Well, if we start at the smaller scale, which would be the school at which we work in, I would say we received, the same as Miguel said, a little bit of mixed feelings. And because the video was not hosted directly by me, it was hosted by Miguel. I think I actually went ahead and I started reading like the comments. I didn't actually receive any messages directly to me, but I read the comments that Miguel was receiving, and as well from what I spoke to him yesterday and over the weekend was actually, the mixed feelings could be felt there. Some people were supportive, some people were like not that supportive, but overall, that was not what we were trying to do. We were just trying to show people how it is that we teachers and maybe other people who are in similar fields would be affected. And also, as Miguel said, like we teachers, we do tend to work a little bit for what those little increments that we get on a yearly basis. And as Miguel also stated, it's not automatic. We actually have to show that we deserve that increment. And that's something that we actually wanted to get across. Like oftentimes we might hear, oh, teachers getting this increment, but they don't hear the full story that we need to be assessed, clinically assessed, as Miguel said, that before we get that increment. If we don't pass that clinical assessment, then maybe we will not get that increment.
That's
And the mixed reactions that you've got, were those from teachers as well?
I would say it's just general. I couldn't really say it was just teachers. I couldn't just say it was just a regular or people who work in the private sector.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be interesting to me to find out why, if there were some teachers who had negative reactions to it, what reasons that they gave.
Yeah, that would be a very good thing to figure out, but we haven't quite seen or say, well, we can't usually just go into Facebook and say like browse for everyone, because then we would be like little stalkers, and we don't want to be stalkers.
I'm sure you teach your students not to be. Okay, Miguel, we have the chart up, so you can go ahead and walk us through that.
Okay, so on this chart, well, it shows you, what it's trying to show you is that, so this is how our increments look like. When you increase, it is one increment goes on top of each other. So for those people who don't understand numbers, this gives you a better visual of what I'm trying to portray. So practically, the first 4 years, I mean, we will not be getting any increments. So I think that the host has option of moving the table.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go to the
There you go.
Right there, right there. Yeah. So if you notice, this would be on year 1 to 4. This is how normally it would look like. The green shows how our increments would look like on a normal year. So the green colored part is how it would look. But now if we set back our increments by 4 years, this is how it would look like. So it's like we didn't work this first 4 years, and we start at 0 with our increments from the 5th year up. And if you notice, it's the same type of escalation, or the same stairway. It just happened that 4 years entirely. So all the little portion that you see here in green, there, that would be things that we would not get if we go with an increment freeze. Those would be things that would be lost forever. And if you add it up, inside of each box, there's $1,310. If you add all those little green boxes up, it would total about $99,000. So that is more or less the gist of the increment freeze. The effects and long-term implications, economic implications.
What you've been able to do, and it's part of the reason why we wanted to have you all here, is be able to give some clarity as to what is being proposed. You very clearly said that you've gotten positive reactions as well as some negative reactions. And I suppose that some people may feel that putting together this video and allowing for a visualization of what type of sacrifice is being asked is almost trying to steer the direction of the decision making that teachers had to make during this time. Do you feel that that's part of what's behind the negative reactions you get?
Well, everyone is suffering because of the pandemic, and we have to acknowledge that. So something that has not, well, it's not being said clearly. We are all suffering. And yes, this is a sacrifice of the teachers, and I wouldn't dare say like this would be my final sacrifice. And I think that part of the, I would use the word hate for a lack of a better word. The hate that is being fomented is that people are thinking, oh, they're getting their salaries, meanwhile we don't have anything, and they're complaining. And I think that is what is causing the negative reaction. But we are all suffering. And why are we all suffering? I have family members. My dad is a taxi driver. He was unemployed for a year. So it's not like we live in isolation. Teachers are just getting it easy or getting away with it easy, or public servants are getting it easy. We all have to make a sacrifice. And I think that people are not, because they're not seeing the sacrifice that probably teachers make, which is most of the reason behind some of the hate words that are said in social media. Certainly.
And when you look at the conversation around increments, people who don't work in government service especially, it very often is misconstrued as you getting a yearly raise. And the performance appraisal is also really key. Do you want to talk us through that so we can understand? And what's it like for you as teachers? Kelvin, you can take that one.
Well, to start with, it does take a little bit of preparation. It's just that, like, usually we might think, oh, teachers, they just write a lesson and they deliver it. But over the course of a week or the semester or even the school year, we actually have to go back and reevaluate our lessons. And in doing so, we tend to cater for students who are moving farther ahead than the rest, those students who are in between, and those students who tend to be a little bit slower. So we have to cater for all of them at the same time. So in preparing, so when we start, let's say, so for high schools, usually the beginning of the school year is August. When we start August, we usually get a new class. If it's a third or a fourth former, we just continue that class. So we already know how they work. But for, let's say, a first form, a second form, or a new third form, we as science teachers, especially because we do teach chemistry and biology, we tend to first get them. We need to assess them and evaluate them, telling them, okay, so this group is doing so, this group is doing a little bit at the medium range, and then we have the lower one. So we assess them, we take them, and over time, when the evaluation comes, we know that we will do our best. It's not like, oh, we will just walk in there and do a lesson. No, we prepare a lot. It begins at the very beginning of the year, our first assessment. We do have a little, sometimes issues do arise. Maybe our lesson deviates slightly, but we need to accommodate over that. And there are little things that the student collaboration, the behavior of the teacher in class, and the overall feel of the lesson needs to be evaluated in that criteria, which allows us to be able to get that increment at the very end of the year.
Yeah. Now, as young teachers, as you were asked to weigh in on the proposals being made, what are some of the things that you use as guidance for your decision-making process?
Okay, since we are science teachers, we tend to rely a lot on the facts. So let's look at the economics of it. So the economics has to do a lot of it. We also have to look at the moral, because teachers, we are held to a higher moral standard than other employees. So we have to look at the moral, what is our duty, and so we do have multiple things that we need to factor in when making a decision. So we can't just selfishly say our decision will be based on this. No, we need to take a holistic approach and decide exactly what is the best course of action.
Yeah. And I think what you said is such a key point. One of the foundation of science is really looking at facts and using that. And the facts of where we are economically as a country is one that, of course, in the proposal that's being put forward is the basis for why government feels this is a necessary step to take. So while you do the breakdown in looking at the impact on teachers, how do you also factor in the economics of the situation?
Okay, so I'll answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to prepare to share my screen once more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that is being put out there is this. I mean, from the image there, we are at an impasse because I think that we're heading in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the government's perspective, this is what we understood. This is like in a nutshell what we understood. I want 3 years of your salary and increments. That is like the gist of what we are getting. And we need it because of this, and that. Fine, that's true. But ironically, they want something of us. And what are they putting on the table? So what exactly are they putting on the table that will complement this sacrifice? Because I don't want it to take it the wrong way. Teachers are not selfish in nature. I mean, we are one of the most giving people that can exist out there. And I think, and this is like the crux of the matter, there has been a huge miscommunication between where we stand. Because we are not saying completely, well, we are. So this is the message we're getting, essentially. We need 3 years of your salary and your increments. And we say no. And it's fair. It's fair for us to say no. But deep within us, there are 3 main reasons why teachers are saying no. 3 main reasons. 1, we are afraid of the financial instability. So even though we understand the economic situation of the country, we are afraid. And this is a self-preserving reason. Sounds selfish, right? But it's not only that.
But human. It's also human. I think any person who feels that particular threat, they get scared.
Yes, we are scared. We are genuinely scared. And I tell you as a teacher, I think there is a lack of trust in government. And this is more or less our revolutionary reason. So we are not willing to give up 3 years and 3 years of salary and increments.
Because of a lack of trust.
Because there is a lack of trust. And it's the same reason why we don't invest in people we know that will lead us astray. I'm not saying that the government will lead us astray. It's just that there is a quote by Confucius which would illustrate this. There are 3 ways in which let me just read it here. There are 3 ways by which we learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. And in the past history of our country, it's a very young history, we have had the government making decisions that have not been sound. I think this government needs a chance to make things better. But if there is no trust, the first step in this negotiation is to establish the trust. Because we don't trust government, and you can ask anyone out there their opinion, and they might say, yeah, maybe we trust them a little bit, but the general consensus is that there is a lack of trust. And I think they need to table something, put something forward, and that is why I put this previous image. We are at an impasse, and this is the reason, this is the real reason, for 3 reasons. We are afraid, we lack the trust, and we are fighting for our next generation. If you notice from my image there on the 3rd picture, I have the image of a man beating a woman, and the woman is defending herself. I know it's a little bit of a stereotype because it can be the other way around, but what I'm trying to say is if we don't defend, if we don't defend our rights, then we are condoning a future generation of teachers and public officers to be trampled upon anytime that the situation gets bad. That will be the course of action, because there is precedent, there is history that, okay, anytime it goes. So no, we are not saying we won't contribute. We're not saying that. That is not the sentiment that teachers have. The general sentiment is that we are afraid, and the government needs to acknowledge that we are afraid, because if we chose a job like this and worked our life off to study, it's because we sought financial stability, and that is what the job brought with us. And we don't really know what to do now that we're going to lose, or we stand to lose. We lack trust, and I think that this is one of the noblest fights for when we take it as a collective, as teachers and public officers. We want to restore that trust, that confidence, and for us to invest and for us to sacrifice. There needs to be something in return. In this case here, both are unwilling to put something forward. So it's the final stone that will bridge the gap. So we will contribute, but we need things in place. We really need things in place for us to be willing to take that step. Not just we want your 3 years salary and increments. So that's the general sentiment.
What do you think are some of the things that could help you, that could help build confidence? Well, one on the teacher's part, but yeah, well, let's just start with that. What's something that can be done so at least perhaps even if we don't get to the resolution immediately, how do we get closer to finding that, building that bridge, to use your analogy?
Yes. So in building the bridge, I'm very glad that you asked that question. I'm extremely happy you asked that question, because there are things that we demand, and I will just name a few. I think that the other days I saw Mr. Julius Espat. He was misrepresented in a video that was promulgated in social media in an interview. And he spoke a little bit about transparency. Transparency is asking for the documentation and we providing, but we don't want that and we don't deserve that. What we deserve is proactive transparency. That's the first step in establishing trust. So proactive transparency would be like the first step. What does that mean? You stop using limited tender, try to because we had to look at this in a holistic view. So you also need to be forthright with your campaign financing. You need to hold the people given contracts accountable for the work that they do. So you need to have legislation, because if we elected a new government, and by I say the Belizean people, it's because we want a change. That is what we were seeking. And from the get-go, we saw controversy with hirings, and that we want legislation. That's part of their job. We want legislation in place that will protect not only teachers and public officers, but Belizeans in general, the people from getting stepped on. Maybe today is, and then we also want excessive spending on allowances to be reduced, because look, they said 10% that they are removing or they're sacrificing from their salary. That is not equitable. That is not equitable. If a person who earns $16,000, let's say we have a public servant earning $16,000 and they already feel strained, they have a family of 5, they have to take the bus every morning, they have to pack their lunch to go to work at Belmopan, from Cayo to Belmopan, and they're giving $1,600 when our representatives, they're giving out or getting reduced 10%, which would be like sometimes like $8,000, but they still have other amenities that they can fall back on. Yeah, maybe I'm losing that, but then I have other things where I can relax. So for them to truly understand, we also want reduce spending and allowances. We need to abandon projects that are a non-priority for our country. Like just for the campaign season, we saw a lot of work being done. The people deserve the work being done, but is it a priority? As Mr. Julio said, it is majority on agro-productive sector, and I was very happy to hear that. But then when you walk around town and you see that maybe it is that is what some people are selling him but that's not what is really happening at times. And I really want to take a leap of faith and believe in that this government will be different. But I also want to see things in place that will protect. Yeah. Yes. So
let me ask one more question, because I think that it's also, while you've taken the time to put together visualizations of what the current proposal is, you said that you clearly understand the economic situation. What kind of alternatives, in addition to having actions taken to build the trust, which you say is lacking, but what about other alternatives as to what you feel as a young teacher, and this is on a personal basis, I want to be clear, this isn't a union position, that you think you would feel comfortable doing?
Okay, so that is an excellent question, and here is where I might cause a little bit of controversy. Because once things are in place, and I feel that, yes, I can deposit my trust in the government, what am I willing to do as certainly not 3 years. 3 years is way too much. We need to find compromise. We need to find middle ground. On a personal basis, I would be willing to let go of the increment with one condition: make provisions that will make our increments be nominal. That means that they will increase in name. That way it doesn't become stagnant. So we won't receive the monetary increments, but we will receive the increments in name. And I would feel much more at ease for 1 year. On the salary, 10%, I would agree to bail the government this once for 1 year, because this is a government who campaign on We Plan Belize, and I want to hold them accountable that they are planning Belize, and I want to deposit and take the leap of faith and say, yes, I am willing on a personal basis to give up 10% this year and that salary increment, provided that we get nominal increments. So that on a personal basis, that is what. I cannot speak for the rest, because I know that everyone has a different financial reality and different type of commitments. So as a young teacher, that is my grain of sand towards building this bridge.
And have you heard? Well, I mean, we started out this conversation by saying that you and Kelvin have been, of course, speaking about this for the past few weeks, obviously, because you'll feel the direct impacts of it. But suggestions like those that you made just now, are those the type of conversations that you all are having? And is there also scope for getting those concerns or those suggestions or things like that you've been able to highlight just now? Are your voices being heard? Because we're hearing about this in terms of the news, and it's sort of a big national conversation. But among your individual teachers, what's the general feeling like?
Okay, I think that at the start, it was like this: no, 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 and the sentiment has been, we oppose it vehemently. Mm-hmm. That's it, because this is what we are getting. This is the fee that we're getting. This is the banner in which the government is operating on. 3 years salary cut, 3 years increment. But as we speak, and I think that you will find that teachers are very reasonable individuals. They're extremely reasonable individuals, and we are willing to sacrifice. We are, but not blindly. We're not sheep. We need hand in hand And I think that it is becoming the general sentiment in our school. Yes, we are a little bit disgruntled by it. We won't be happy giving it up, but we will be a little bit more willing. It is much more palatable for 1 year to be given out.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is, and Kelvin, do you want to share your perspective as we start to sign off?
I share the same sentiment as Miguel. I would give part of it, but at the same time, we need to have certain measures set in place, like certain legislation, as Miguel also said, that will not benefit us immediately, but in the long run. And also, what a key point that Miguel stated is that usually when we approach someone and we just tell them, okay, I'm going to remove this from you, and we can see them with children. Like children nowadays are so attached to their mobile devices, like tablets or phones. And you tell them, okay, give me your phone, give me your tablet. Their reaction would be, no, I won't give it. Like that's the same thing with teachers. Yeah. Like they told them, okay, we're taking 10% of your salary, and we're taking an increment as well. And we're like, okay, so why? We need something. We need to be expressed, like told, okay, we will be taking this, but we will be making this following amends that will help you in the long run. And I think that's what everybody wants to hear. Now, and yes, we might not like it, but we know that in the long run, it will be beneficial to both the country and ourselves as teachers and as citizens of this country.
So I'm sure you both know that this is a very divisive issue, and there are people who stand up and say they're in support with the BNTU and the unions on their stance, and there are many who say, nope, I have taken a salary cut, I have lost my job, I am struggling, you guys need to put in your pound of flesh as well. How do you respond when you hear that?
Okay, so in regards to that, I'm very happy that you have that slide up. So I think that you can put it up.
Yeah.
How do we give our pound of flesh? We have been giving our pound of flesh. When last April, when the government was scrambling for funds and they were looking, where will the money come? Who will get the money? How will we get the money to the people? Teachers were already on the move. Our school, we had fundraised to go on a trip somewhere. I don't remember where. It feels like it was a decade ago. We used that money. We fundraised for a year to go on a trip. But guess what? Everyone unanimously said, no, we use that money for grocery bags for the students who need it. Yes, maybe it's not on social media. Maybe it's not viral. Maybe we didn't put it up because there was no string attached to these grocery bags. And we have been giving up. And we have been going out there and giving, maybe not every single month, but we have. And this is something that the people need to understand. We are giving that, maybe not a pound of flesh. That sounds a little bit grim, but but we have been giving to our community, and we continue to give to our community. Just recently, before the tablets were issued out, some students had no access to anything. Yeah. Some students, and the school just happened to have surplus of tablets from a project that was implemented some years ago. Guess what the principal did? The principal personally called those students, gave them a tablet. I mean, we are givers. We are willing to give, but we also need some assurances and some measures, like Mr. Kelvin said, in place. So we have been giving. That's my central message.
All right. Well, can I just say, Miguel and Kelvin, it is refreshing to hear new perspectives in this conversation. And as we clearly stated in the beginning, this is not a union perspective. These are two teachers in Benqueville who took the initiative to try to explain to the broader public what the impact of the increment would be. And, you know, as young teachers, I think it is even more important that we see what type of communication and education is taking place in the classrooms. And it's encouraging. So thank you for taking the initiative, and thank you for coming on live television to share your point of view.
Thank you for having us. We are very grateful that you gave us this platform to expand on this issue. And I think my parting message is, don't be so willing to give up the increment. That isn't my parting sentiment.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Yeah. And with that, of course, we are going to be taking our break, and we're going to come back and have our second conversation with representatives from the Ministry of Human Development, and we're going to be talking all about Social Workers Day 2021. So please stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.